If I had to do it all over again, would I move to Venice, Florida again in 2025? Here's the honest to God truth. So we've been living in Venice for over 5 years now and lived in Orlando for a little bit before that, for about 1.5 years. So been in Florida for about 7-ish years now. And we moved to Venice right when COVID hit. So there's been a lot of changes since then, with the market going up, going down a little bit, and changes in the area as a whole, not just as far as prices, but what the area looks like, what it feels like, you know, and the overall vibe. So as a whole, where I am right now, Venice Island, and I would say for a lot of people, when they think of Venice, this is one of the main things they think of. This is like the heart and soul of Venice. This has not changed dramatically. There's been a few, you know, additions, like as far as like his little historical archive type things and sites to see, you know, a few homes being remodeled and things like that. But outside of that, the downtown and Venice Island and the beaches and all that, they're pretty much what they always have been. And that's a big part of what makes Venice, Venice. So on that front, like the core of what Venice is, I don't think has changed. Where the bigger changes have happened is off Venice Island. And that has definitely changed the feel of the area as a whole, and a little bit influenced a little bit of how Venice Island feels. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But first, let's talk about what some of those changes are. So basically, off of Venice Island, you've had a lot more development. Literally, actually, right when we were moving, a lot of commercial development started happening right by Tamiami, right towards the edge of Venice Gardens and near the Circus Bridge at that intersection. And there's a whole bunch more commercial stuff there, which has really added a lot to the area, in my opinion, and it's good to see. It just added a lot more shopping amenities for people that live in the city. So you've got a joint chiropractic. It's kind of like you scan and you go in and you get your adjustment done, and it's real quick, once a week. There's a Pineapple Tequila restaurant there, a Burlington, a Marshall's, Bell's, and Home Centric for commercial shopping type, you know, stores and things like that, for clothing, furniture a little bit, home goods, things like that. And a bunch more restaurants in there as well. Parlor Donuts. There's a tropical smoothie cafe. There's just a lot of great stuff that has been added to that area. But on top of that, you've got a lot of different development as far as the North Venice area and then Wellen Park, which you don't have to let me know in the comments. I know technically Wellen Park is not Venice. A lot of people like to make YouTube videos saying Wellen Park located in Venice, Florida, which people, it kind of triggers. And here's the details of that. I'll just give you a quick rundown. Basically, it was all developed by Northport. Taxes and utilities are going to go through Northport. However, your home address, when you get like mail and stuff, is going to be Venice. So just about everything about it is Northport, but the addresses are Venice. They've marketed it as Venice, but realistically, it just kind of feels like its own thing. And I'm not here to say that that's part of Venice or isn't, but what I am saying is it has affected Venice. And then obviously North Venice, which also, if you think about it, it's kind of like this new name they started slapping on communities that are more technically like Nokomis or Nokomis. We've heard people locally say it both ways, or Laurel. And so those are like two like smaller cities that are like north of Venice, that now some of the new communities being built in that area are being branded as North Venice. There hasn't been as much arguing about that as there is with Wellen Park for whatever reason. But both of those have given people a lot of new home options in the area, number one. So different, you know, new planned communities to live in that are very close to Venice and accessible to Venice. Number two, it's added population to the area. So a lot of people coming to downtown Venice and Venice Island and Venice's beaches. And then number three, it's affecting Venice because of those areas being developed. More commercial things are coming into both of those areas, plus the brand new downtown and Wellen Park that people that live in Venice proper can now go access. So it's just giving you a lot more opportunities for things to do. But on top of that, it's brought more people to the area that are also now coming to Venice Island or other parts of Venice, you know, that big shopping plaza that I just mentioned before with, you know, the joint chiropractor in Burlington and Bell's and all that stuff. So that being said, there has been some big changes with those areas, and you know, obviously it's kind of changed my perspective of what the area looks and feels like. Again, Venice Island overall feels the same, but more people frequenting the area. As you can see, right now it's September, so it's like the opposite of peak season here. It's probably like one of the slowest times of year, and there's still a fair amount of people out, but nothing too crazy. But once you start getting into more of the like winter months, yeah, it gets pretty crazy here, and we've definitely seen a pickup in that. However, I think both me, My wife Haiti, who lives here, by the way, if I didn't mention, if you are looking to buy or sell a home in Sarasota, down to Port Charlotte, Inglewood, of course, Venice area, get a hold of us, 941-221-1897. We would love to help you out. We've helped a lot of people avoid mistakes, save a lot of money, and get answers questions that are often impossible to find online. But when we first moved to the area, like I mentioned before, we moved here like in 2020 when lockdowns were happening. So if maybe you happen to see Venice around that same time, and us included, like, our perspective, I think, was a little bit skewed on how quiet Venice was. Now, don't get me wrong, it's always been kind of known as this quieter, sleepy beach town. Again, it has picked up, but I think we thought it was even quieter than it was because there were so people out and about because of the timing, you know, with the pandemic and all that. So, you know, there has been some changes, but it's hard for us to completely quantify how big those changes are. That being said, we had been to Venice multiple times before moving to the area and before, you know, the lockdowns were happening and all that. So we did get to see, you know, how busy it could be. And we came in the winter months, and even then it was pretty packed and a lot of people in the downtown area. So, you know, overall it has grown, it has got a little more congested, but I think some people that maybe are comparing it to like 2020 to 2022 are possibly maybe got a little bit of a skewed perspective of what the reality of Venice was at that time, you know what I mean? And comparing that to what it is now. So just something to keep in mind. But if you've never been to the area and you come here, you'll kind of see, okay, yep, this is what it is. And you won't have to worry about trying to make one of those comparisons because, you know, things are pretty normal now. Some other things that have changed. Well, first of all, there is no more hospital on Venice Island. That went out of business because a brand new one went in North Venice, a Sarasota Memorial Hospital. And so within about a year of that coming in, the one on Venice Island went out of business. That being said, there's a lot of other medical facilities being built in the area, like in Wellen Park, there's going to be a Sarasota Memorial Campus, Northport's starting to get more. So all those new ones going in those other areas will help alleviate some of the medical facilities here, and it's just nice to have a brand new one in Venice. So that's one other pretty big change that has happened in the area as well. And all in all, I would say those have been the biggest changes. You know, more new developments, more new people coming to the area. Even like along Jacaranda, there was a long stretch where basically it was a bunch of wooded area, and that's now started to get developed. There's a Sprouts coming in there. There's a bunch of apartment buildings, a new planned community. Park Square Homes is building there. They're new to the area. As well as Ryan Homes. They are not new to the area as a whole, but as far as I'm aware, this might be the first Venice community they're building, but they built in some of the other nearby cities, but I might be forgetting one in Venice that they built in. But the point being, there's more coming to that area, and so here's sort of the pros and cons of that, of all the development and all the new commercial stuff coming to the area, and where I sit on all that, and if it, you know, how it would affect me if I were to move to the area again. Would I make the same choice? And so, and actually real quick, I'm right by Venice Beach back here. Just to give you a little quick shot of that. I'm gonna walk back towards the downtown on these nice trails in Heritage Park, which again, this hasn't changed. This is one of the big things we've always loved about Venice is Heritage Park, the beaches, just the vibe here, the trees, the landscaping, the buildings, the architecture, condos over here, even the big condo buildings. I think those are pretty cool. I don't know, it's just a vibe. But that being said, the changes, you know, the new commercial development, the new communities coming in. And so with that, a lot of people have three things that they would view as big cons. Some people are very, very passionate about it. I agree, but I'm maybe not as passionate on a lot of them. So the first would be the congestion, you know, on the roads, in the stores, all that kind of stuff. And so the parking as well, the beaches, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's one of the ones I'd say I'm a little more passionate about, just because, you know, like not being able to find a parking spot can be frustrating. Not being able to get into a restaurant or shop, or, you know, just having space to move can be frustrating at times. That being said, I don't think it's as bad as some people have like to made it out to be. And it's not like so bad that it would make me want to move from the area necessarily at all. I've been to a lot of other cities with way worse issues than Venice has, way worse. But all this is going to depend on, you know, personal perspective. If you're just first moving to the area and you're coming from somewhere else, what is it like there? And, you know, Venice compared to that could be better or it could be worse. You might also be comparing it to just being in Venice for many, many years and seeing it change. And now you're just like, no, it's too much for me. This isn't what I signed up for. But I mean, that's just the nature of the world. Every city is going to change. It's either going to get bigger or it's going to get smaller over time. So pick your poison, you know? I mean, where we came from originally, a city called Fond du Lac, it seems like it's going through a little revitalization up in Wisconsin, the city is. And there's some more stuff coming to the area right now, which is nice. But for a while, it seemed like the city was kind of shrinking and there was less businesses in the area. And it's just like, oh man, to me, that was more of a drag than seeing things come to the area and dealing with a little bit more people and congestion. So personally, I think I would rather go this route. Which brings me to the number 2 point, which is one that I also agree with. It's very similar, but it's the infrastructure as far as the roads and things like that, being able to handle traffic. Now, Venice Island is Venice Island. I don't think we're going to see any big changes to a lot of the roads. Maybe, you know, occasionally they'll be updating some of the utilities and stuff like that, but I don't foresee any major changes with them adding extra roads, widening roads. It's pretty much built out. It is what it's going to be. Off the island, different story. There's a lot more cars going through. There's, you know, very main roads. There's roads that didn't used to be main roads that are becoming main roads that need to be expanded. And so that has been somewhat of an issue. And they're trying to work on that as we speak. River Road being a big part of that, being expanded, widened, and making it less susceptible to being flooded. And so that to me overall is a good thing. I can agree with a lot of people saying, you know, this, like the communities coming in was too quick for the pace of the infrastructure updates with the roads and things like that, which in some cases I agree. Going through the Wellen Park area, seems like they're starting to do a good job of getting some of that road construction in that area done to accommodate for that area. And again, I understand it's not technically Venice, but a lot of, you know, again, the benefits of being in Venice is being able to access the stuff in that area, maybe go to Northport, things like that, and people from there coming here. So adding to that infrastructure is going to help. Adding to the River Road is going to help. And as a whole, I think there maybe could be a little bit more done. And I definitely agree with that, with people saying, you know, it's harder to get around, and adding some more roads and infrastructure to ease some of those traffic woes would be good. That being said, again, I have been to New York City a lot of times. I've been to Los Angeles a lot of times. I've been to some other big cities a lot of times. Orlando, again, we lived there for a while. And I know, again, some people are going to say like, no, Venice has gotten too much, too crazy. But when you compare it to some of those other areas, I'm just like, it's really not that bad. It might be worse than where you're coming from or what Venice used to be. And I'm not here to disagree with that. But just for me, again, because this is if I would move to Venice again, compared to other places, like, it is not bad. You can get to just about anywhere you want to in Venice. Beaches, restaurants, shops, Walmart, Publix, Aldi, grocery store, you know, Burlington, whatever you want to get to in about 15 minutes. Maybe if it's the busy season, possibly bump that up to 20 minutes if you're on like a far end of one end of the town and got to get to the other. That is not too bad. And generally speaking, most stuff you're talking about a 10-ish minute drive, give or take a couple minutes. That's not too bad, you know? So all things considered, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but yeah, it would be nice to see a little bit more going in. That being said, one of the other cons a lot of people have, and it ties in with both of these things, but on a different front completely. I'm going to come across here and take you to this middle trail. And what that other con is the nature, right? A lot of people don't like the new roads coming in because you're taking away land from, you know, nature, and the, you know, obviously new communities taking up a whole bunch of land, and to some degree the commercial as well. And so part of what makes Venice great is the wildlife, the quiet feel of it, the nature, and just of course being aware of habitat and things like that, you know what I mean, and giving animals a home, which I agree with. That being said, I think this is a very tricky thing. Some of those communities for sure have taken up a lot of areas for nature to live, so because of that, can't disagree with that one bit. On the other hand, I think Venice has done a pretty good job with, like, Venice Island. There's lots of parks with, you know, trees and shade and grassy areas, and then on Venice mainland, like, there is so many parks with just trails through them, and outside of that, pretty much untouched. And I think they've done a really good job of maintaining those sorts of areas for nature and for people to get out into nature. And this is one of the reasons for me why when we moved to Venice, the beaches in the downtown were like number one and number two. But the longer we've been here, and if you've been watching the videos for any amount of time now, especially lately, I do a lot of these walk and talk videos, sometimes in these areas, but a lot of them are on those nature trails. And it's just nice to be able to live in a city, have city amenities, but still very easily be able to get out and get into nature and get on a trail and see some wildlife and different trees and just fresh air and some green. As you can see, you can very easily do that also in a more city area on Venice Island as well. But I think the city has done well with that. We're also a bird sanctuary city. So just, you know, all those little things, I think, while it has changed, they've also done a good job of setting things up in the past to keep a certain level of nature, and having those things easily accessible is awesome. And it's a question I get on a lot of videos actually, is what trail are you on this video? And a lot of times I'm like, sorry, I don't even remember. Like, I just look it up on my phone and I'll find a trail and I'll just go drive to it and park there. Some of them I don't even remember what they're called, but there's like quite a few of them, especially towards like the South Venice area, Pine Brook Park in the north end of the city. So like all those things, I'm kind of dipping into the pros here, I guess, a little bit, but all those things are like awesome to me. And so it's kind of kept a decent amount of the nature to the area. That being said, I'm not here to say like, oh no, this development isn't happening and isn't affecting nature. It absolutely is. So, you know, those are all things that need to be put into consideration. And then I guess, I don't know how I didn't think of this, but I probably should have been one of the first things I thought of as a con would be the prices. I started the video off with like, okay, we came here during COVID and then things went crazy. Venice was one of the cities more than anywhere else in Florida where we really saw prices go psh. And so if you watched our videos from a couple years ago, as prices were going up, what we often said in those videos was like, you know, honestly, I get why like people that have seen the area before have looked at this and said, oh my gosh, places are way too expensive now. This is unaffordable, etc., etc., etc. But when we first moved to Venice, we were like, this city is freaking magical. Like, we love the downtown, we love the beaches, we love the vibe of everything about it. It's a well-maintained city. There's lots of different ways to live in the area with different planned communities. There's South Venice, if you don't want the HOA route. You've got, as you can see, everything that Venice Island is with, you know, condos. There's historic looking homes, Mediterranean homes, very walkable on Venice Island. And so there's just a lot the city has to offer on all those fronts. And we could also see like new stuff was coming in the area with that new shopping center. So we're like, okay, it's growing and expanding and more is coming. And so you put all that together with the beaches, being the shark tooth capital of the world, which I didn't even mention. You can find a lot of prehistoric shark's teeth on our beaches. And we just like, it was a steal. The prices when we moved, we thought were a steal. And so when the prices went up, if you watched our videos from a couple of years ago, we were just like, honestly, this is kind of like what probably should have been to begin with. You know, I think it maybe went a little above that, you know, at the peak of prices, but where prices have come down to now, you know, I'm not saying they're going to come up really quickly again, or that they're going to go down a whole lot more, because I don't have a crystal ball. That being said, prices have been slowly declining over the last couple of years. I'd say down about 50K for Sarasota County as a whole. I'd have to look up the exact numbers for Venice. And even that's kind of a mixed bag, just for the fact that usually if you look up data, it's going to be like Venice is going to be like Venice Island, but then that doesn't include Venice Gardens and South Venice and all the other little pockets. But all that to say, basically, that, you know, right now with the prices having come down a little bit, I feel like prices are, again, I know there's going to be some people like, no way, they're way too much, because they're going to compare them to what they were back in 2020 or 2019, 2018 or 2008. And yeah, if you compare them to that, I agree. And I'm not saying they're not going to come down more or shouldn't come down more. That being said, I feel like for what you get out of the city, it's a good price, value-wise. With interest rates being higher right now, different story, but we might be seeing those come down, so it's really hard to say. And again, this is, you know, if I would move to the area again. So based on that, for me, like all the value, I don't think it's crazy overpriced. I think there's some room for them to come down yet, for sure. But on the flip side of that, and one thing that a lot of people don't put into consideration, again, they just want to compare Venice to like what it was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, and say, well, they were this then, you know, they shouldn't have gone up this much, without putting into consideration all the things that I've been mentioning earlier in the video that's new, that's come to the area, that is going to add value to the area. We've got one, soon to be 2 Aldi grocery stores that were not here just a few years ago. There's a Sprouts farmer's market coming. You got the whole new Wellen Park downtown, which again, I know isn't technically Venice, but very close to Venice and easily accessible. You got all the new shops and restaurants in that new shopping center by the edge of Venice Gardens by Circus Bridge that I mentioned. All of that is new to the area. So there's just a lot more amenities and things that have added to the quality of the life to the area that is going to increase prices. That's just the way it goes, you know. So when you put that into the mix with everything, I feel like it justifies the price raise a little bit more. So then as far as the pros goes, well, it's basically everything I've talked about in this video so far. You know, the new shopping things that have come to the area, all the things that already were here with the downtown, the beaches, you know, the prehistoric shark's teeth, the nature and the trails and all those things. All the things that we liked about Venice are still here, along with some new additions. Like, again, like when we first moved to the area, that new shopping center was just being built. And I just remember us driving through Venice and saying like, yeah, we really like it. We like the feel, it's magical. We love the beaches, the downtown, all that stuff. But at the time, our one big concern was maybe it'll be a little too boring for us. Maybe there's not enough shopping and restaurants and things to do. And I gotta say, with the new shops and restaurants coming to the area, you know, mainly on the mainland, we're talking a few new things even on Venice Island for that matter, actually. But with all those new things coming to the area, that's really helped satiate that need. With us discovering more parks and trails and things to do on that front, that's helped. And then also, this is something I haven't mentioned yet, there is a lot of activities to do throughout Venice, especially on Venice Island and especially in the winter months. There's laughter yoga, there's all kinds of different Christmas events, the Christmas boat parade, the actual Christmas parade. They have like a big shopping night that they do on the island. And then you could just go to like the downtown. There's like a little pavilion that has like little flyers up for all these different local events and happenings that different organizations are organizing. And then actually where I am here, this is right by the downtown, the tennis courts and things like that here. Like people are playing tennis all the time, pick up basketball at the basketball courts. And so there's just a lot that the city has to offer as far as things to do that aren't necessarily commercial things to do, you know, just more activities, events, things like that, and just places to go out and check out and hang out. And so that being said, in 2025, and kind of where I've changed too a little bit is this, you know, we love Sarasota. I just want to throw this out there. We really like Sarasota. We like getting up to like the UTC shopping area because we like, as we found throughout time, we love the mom and pop stuff, but there's also just a lot of big box store commercial stuff that we just tend to use a little bit more frequently. So having access to that stuff has been awesome. Sometimes, I will say this though, we think that we wouldn't mind living a little bit further north and a little bit more inland for two reasons. One, just a little bit more cushion for hurricane risk. And two, to get a little bit quicker access to some of those things in Sarasota. I don't know that we would necessarily want to live in Sarasota or like Lakewood Ranch, UTC area, but we wouldn't mind being a little bit closer to it to get to it faster. And so I just want to throw that out there and say that just to kind of give you an understanding of, you know, maybe some of the ways, there's all kinds of stuff falling off this oak tree here. Some of the ways that maybe our perspective has changed and what we might do a little bit differently. Not to say we're not happy with where we are right now. We absolutely love our community that we're living in right now and the part of Venice that we're in, because we also get pretty quick access to Wellen Park and Inglewood. We love Inglewood as well. It's a city that's definitely grown on us. So all in all, I would say yes, 100% emphatically yes. Would definitely move to Venice again. Just maybe a slightly different part, but even then, with all the new stuff coming in with Wellen Park and having quick access to that, it's just like at the same time, if we were to move further north, we would kind of lose access to all the new exciting things coming to that area, being so close right now. And even like Dearborn Street, downtown Dearborn Street being developed right now and revitalized. You know, so there's some new things coming to that are pretty exciting as well. So even then, I don't know if I would even change where we were going to live. But the answer is yes, I would definitely move here in a heartbeat once again. And honestly, we have another YouTube channel where we go all over Florida and we do home tours and check out their downtowns and stuff like that and just kind of get a feel for other cities. And before we even had that channel, we were always exploring different areas of Florida and cities. And I can't really imagine too many other areas I would rather be than Venice, to be honest. For us, again, this maybe isn't for everyone, but for us, for me and my wife, Haiti, it just scratches the most boxes and is the right fit for us of the blend of small but not too small, new stuff to do, new stuff coming to the area, and enough to do, both business-wise, outside-wise, nature-wise, beach-wise, and just the overall feel of community and the way the people are here. All those things together come together, and for us, make it the perfect place. But maybe that isn't or is not the case for you. I don't know. If you've been to the area, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it. Let us know if you have been watching for a while and if you haven't been down, and you know, definitely get down here and check it out. And if you are looking to buy or sell a home in the area, get a hold of our team, 941-221-1897. We help a lot of people move to the area, avoid mistakes, and get answers to those questions that sometimes are impossible to find online. Call or text us at any time at 941-221-1897. We would love to help you out. And if you want to know more about what it's like to live in Venice, Florida, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching and live breezy.